In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about rhyme scheme, how you determine it, what it means, and give you a little bit of practice in determining rhyme scheme of a poem. So when I say rhyme scheme, what I'm talking about is a pattern of end rhyme in a poem, and that is rhyming at the end of the line, the most common type of rhyme we think of when we think of poetry. Okay. When you talk about rhyme scheme, you're going to use letters to indicate the pattern of rhyme at the end of the poem. So for example, you have A, B, B, A, A, B, A, B, A, A, B, B, and any other number of patterns that there can be. That includes patterns with more rhymes than that, different patterns. But what we use those letters for is to indicate the rhyme. So where you have the A, those are words that rhyme with each other. Where you have the B, those are words that rhyme with each other. So the same letter equals the same rhyme. For example, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high like a diamond in the sky. That rhyme would be labeled AABB because the words at the end of the first two lines both rhyme with each other, so they are A and A. The last words of the last two lines are a different rhyme, a different sound at the end of the word, but they sound the same, they rhyme with each other. So you have BB, AABB, star and R, high and sky. Here's another example, and this is a longer stanza of a poem, and we're going to introduce having more than just two rhymes here. The people along the sand all turn and look one way. They turn their back on the land. They look at the sea all day. As long as it takes to pass, a ship keeps raising its hull. The wetter ground like glass reflects a standing gull. That rhyme scheme is ABAB, CCDD. Okay, and you will notice that one way to record rhyme scheme is to write a letter at the end of each line, and you can do that as you read the poem. I would read it one time for the sake of just reading it before you try to do this. But just as you go along, each time a line ends, write a letter to correspond with that. Okay, so sand is your first rhyme, your first sound at the end of a line, so you write A. Way is different than that, so you would write B. Land rhymes with sand, so you would go back to that A. Same with day. You would write the letter that corresponds with the rhyme, and then you get down to pass, and it's again a new sound that hasn't been introduced in the poem yet, so it gets its own letter. Okay, so notice that each time a new rhyme or a new sound is introduced, a new letter is introduced, and that could go on indefinitely depending on the length of the poem. Notice that the pattern may not be exactly the same with each new sound that comes along. You have ABAB at the beginning of the stanza, and then when new rhymes are introduced, it goes to CCDD, not the back and forth rhyme. And that's okay, and there are, specific rhyme schemes and patterns that you will see in poetry that does that. Okay, here's one to try for yourself. Okay, I'm going to read it to you and give you a few moments to determine the rhyme scheme. It says, little red bird at the patio door attacks his reflection like he's done before. Okay, this is ABCB. Okay, so in this stanza there are two lines that have sounds that don't rhyme with anything else. B is the only repeated sound, and again, that's okay. there can be lines that don't have another line that rhymes with them. Now you would want to be careful when analyzing that. There can be poems, you know, free verse, for example. Free verse poems don't rhyme. So you might start to try to determine the rhyme scheme of something and realize that there just really is no pattern. There's not a continuation of any rhyme anywhere, but that usually will be pretty evident quickly. But here you do have a pattern and some repeated rhymes. Here's another one to try for yourself. This poem is called Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. Okay, here we have a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, A, C, B, C, C. And notice that this pattern is a continuation. A, B, A, A, C, B, C, C. Okay, you have a rhyme and then a different rhyme and then two lines with the same rhyme. Okay, and you will notice that again, writing the letter at the end of each line is helpful in determining the rhyme scheme when you're determining it for yourself. Okay. Keep in mind, though, the possibility of slant rhyme when determining rhyme scheme. Okay, and just a reminder of what slant rhyme is. It can also be called half rhyme, near rhyme, or off rhyme. Okay, these are imperfect rhymes. The sound is similar, but not exactly the same. So some examples are noon and morn, hollow and mellow. Okay, similar vowel sounds, but not exactly the same. However, even though the sound is an imperfect rhyme, it would still be categorized as the same rhyme in a rhyme scheme. So if I had a little poem that says, my heart is mellow and I sit, my heart is hollow and I sit mellow. As I was writing out the rhyme scheme, I would go ahead and classify those as the same letter. Okay, I don't think that any of the poems we are doing include slant rhyme, but it is something to keep in mind as we continue our study of poetry. What you're going to need to do is determine the rhyme scheme of the poems included in your poetry dictionary. You can write the letters at the end of each line to help you with the rhyme scheme as you go. And then if you want to write it out in a line, like you've seen in this PowerPoint at the end, that is fine too.